Good morning, members. We have a quorum. It's the appointed time. I call to order the meeting of the panel on housing for the 2026 legislative session. First, we elect the chairman. The Secretariat has forwarded a notice to everyone. As at the end of the nomination period for the chairman, we have received only one valid nomination. The nominated member is Mr. Stanley Ng. Mr. Ng is nominated by Mr. Scott Leung and seconded by Mr. Dennis Leung. Mr. Stanley Ng is not the chairperson of any other panel or deputy chairperson. Neither is he the chairperson or vice chairperson of any advisory committee. So in accordance with the rules of procedure and the House rules, I declare that Mr. Stanley Ng is elected the chairperson of the panel on housing for the 2026 legislative session. I will now invite Mr. Ng to take over from here. I start by thanking members for your support and trust. So let's all work together at this panel to work on issues related to housing. We will now elect the deputy chairperson, and we will now proceed to elect the deputy chairperson for the panel on housing in 2026. The Secretariat has forwarded the notice to everyone that as at the end of the nomination period for the deputy chairperson, we had received just one valid nomination. The member nominated is Mr. Scott Leung. Mr. Leung is nominated by Ms. Michelle Tang and seconded by Mr. Kitson Yang. Mr. Scott Leung is not the chairperson or deputy chairperson of any other panel, nor is he the chairperson or deputy chairperson of any other related advisory body. So in accordance with the rules of procedure and the House rules, I declare that Mr. Scott Leung is elected the deputy chairperson of the panel on housing for the 2026 legislative session. We now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the date for our meetings for 2026. In the last session, meaning in 2025, our regular meetings were held on the first Monday of every month at 2:30 p.m. If members agree, we can stick to this arrangement. Please refer to the proposed meeting date for the 2026 legislative session. Members' attention is also drawn to a few points. First, upon the request of the administration, our regular meeting in February will be moved to the 3rd of February, that's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. The next point is that the first Monday in March will be very close to the two sessions meetings, so our March meeting will be rescheduled to 8:30 a.m. on March the 16th, which is a Monday. The next point is that the first Monday of April will be a public holiday. That means our April meeting will be moved ahead to March the 30th, which is a Monday at 2:30 p.m. So members, please note these changes. Item 3 on the agenda, items for discussion at the next meeting. To give members a deeper understanding of the government's policy goals, the Secretary for Housing will hold a policy briefing for this panel. So that's to give members an idea of this portfolio. The briefing cum panel meeting will be held on February the 3rd, which is a Tuesday, between 2 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. The administration also proposed discussing the following item, and that is Head 711 Project B092TI, and that is the public transport interchange for Area 133B of Tongcheng. Do we all agree on discussing this item? No objection. So let's proceed on that basis. Members are also welcome to propose items for discussion for our regular meetings this year. Members who would like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. So 7 members are in the lineup. Let's do 2 minutes for each member. We will start with Mr. Kitson-Yang. Thank you, Chairman. I have 3 topics in mind for this year's discussions. First, relaunching the tenant purchase scheme. Last year, the Secretary for Housing said they would review this matter. So it's time for us to discuss a possible relaunch of the TPS. During the campaigning season, many local residents expressed the wish for such a relaunch. So let's talk about that. My second topic is revitalizing the design of HOS flat. We talked about the layout of such as doors, etc. We should also revamp the design of the gate as well. Now we still have the gate activated with the password. I think that's out of date. So we need a meeting on the design of public housing. The last point has to do with environmental hygiene and accessibility for housing estates. Many housing estates still adopt the old practice in terms of refuse collection. So can we go for smart initiatives? Can we go smart in collecting garbage? The barrier-free access is inadequate for older estates. We have to do something about that. So those are my points. Next, Mr. Dennis Leung. A few topics I have in mind include the income limit for public housing. Many jobs now offer a pay that is above the income limit, and that's holding workers back. That's also bad for the economy. So can we review the income limit so that we encourage more people to take up a job, and that we can also find housing for them? Now, I also want to talk about transitional housing. In March, the Basic Housing Unit Ordinance will take effect. We have just had the Wangfu Court fire. Many of the affected residents are now staying in transitional housing. Can we review the transitional housing to see if that housing can meet market demand? My third point is elderly-friendly features of public housing. Those housing estates were built many years ago. They failed to keep up with the needs of seniors. We will need general technology and better housing conditions to improve the quality of life for seniors, and we should talk about that. The FTU once proposed a housing saving plan for young people. We proposed the idea first in 2024. We would like the government to consider this so that young people can afford to buy their home, and that can also promote upward mobility for young people. My next point has to do with the turnover of housing. So the options are public rental housing, HOS flats, and private homes. But then we have left out the sandwich class. They need rental housing options. Can we find such options for them? Maybe a saving plan can help them find better housing. So we should discuss that as well. So these are ideas floated by the FTU, so I will not comment on them further. Next, Mr. Lee Chen-Kang. We discussed technologies at public rental housing at the council meeting. So there are full alert systems and technologies about doors and gates. Can we also promote such technologies in private housing estates? Many middle-class seniors live alone, so we should promote such technologies for them. We should talk about this matter. For both private flats and public housing, maintenance is an issue. Middle-class households are becoming the sandwich class, and they have to cope with maintenance projects. We should talk about maintenance projects at this panel. So can we also talk about the problems facing the middle-class residents of private flats at this panel? Next, Mr. Vincent Cheng. First of all, congratulations to the chairman for being elected. I have 6 ideas in mind. First, transitional housing and basic housing and light public housing. So this item was on the agenda in 2024, but we did not get to discuss that. I hope we can talk about that this year. Now I want to turn to the well-being design of the Housing Bureau. Let's get an update. And there's this well-being startup program, which is shop space for young people to start businesses. So let's talk about that. The 4th plan has to do with subsidized sale plans, and then the 5th point has to do with tenant purchase schemes. And then in March, the basic housing unit will start. So can we talk about the update in the second half of this year about the BHU ordinance? Mr. Scotland. Let's talk about the household registration for public housing. So family members can apply to stay together in the same unit. That system has been in place for many years. So you can have seniors being looked after by younger people and the younger family members being looked after by seniors. But our policy does not allow 2 different seniors to stay together so that each can look after each other. So can we look at that? The second point has to do with the well-off tenants policy. Last October, we got the enhanced well-off tenants, new rents applied. Can we look at how the enhancement is doing, and we have to look at how we can help those tenants with the means to move up the housing ladder. On estate management, we need smart management, and we also have the marking scheme for estate management. We should use technology to make the most of the manpower, and we should also find a way to reduce the burden on the housing authorities. Let's talk about that. And finally, redevelopment of public housing estates. We need a long-term plan for the redevelopment of public housing estate. A long-term plan means planning ahead in time. And we would also like a discussion on the tenant purchase scheme. Thank you. Mr. Mark Chong. The first topic I would like to discuss is something about the basic housing unit regime. I've heard that subdivided unit residents are being evicted, so I would like to talk about the housing difficulties faced by these people, the evictions, and finding alternative housing. And I would also like a discussion on government incentives for real estate developers to provide more community living rooms. Now, the next point, the tenant purchase scheme. There are building management issues that have arisen from unclear roles and responsibilities. So can we have a discussion about how we can help TPS estate residents? And I also want to discuss the alienation restrictions for public housing. There are calls in the market for distinctions between HUS flats and private homes. Now I know the HOS flats are now subject to a 10-year alienation restriction instead of 15, down from 15 years. I would like to talk about that. Next, Mr. Lau Ka-Kang. The Basic Housing Unit Ordinance will start taking effect in phases, that's starting from March this year. That's a milestone for grassrooters looking for housing. Verification will play a key role. We should streamline the process. We should make it easier for landlords to apply. We should also make public the information about those units. We should also encourage more landlords to take part in the BHU scheme. Now, on smart housing estates, we should keep enhancing the scheme. We should promote the scheme. We should move faster with the use of technology in building management, maintenance, smart access control, as well as cleaning and security. Now, for seniors and the vulnerable, we should create a friendly environment for them to make everything user-friendly for people. These are points I would like to discuss for this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lau. Next, Mr. Aaron Bog. Thank you. I have 2 suggested items, but it might take time for us to look into them. I'm concerned about the high construction costs in Hong Kong for building public housing estates. How can we lower construction costs and boost efficiency? My other observation is that in planning and developing public housing estates, the government usually assigns the CEDD and another department to do this. The CEDD is usually responsible for site formation works, and they take forward site formation works for 2 to 3 years, and then they pass the project to the housing department, and they work on the project for another 2 to 3 years. Can there be a more efficient way to speed up the construction program and lower construction costs? That's my first question. Second, in terms of the period for us to use the site for public housing estates, well, the government has allocated a lot of resources to build light public housing flats. We want light public housing estates to stay as long as they can so that we won't end up wasting the resources. Well, quite a number of members have asked to speak. I hope the members who are waiting to speak would be brief. Well, please try to limit yourself to about 1.5 minutes. Ms. Grace Chen. Thank you, Chair. I agree with the above proposed items. I am concerned about the sustainability of transitional housing. That is how transitional housing will be used in the future. I hope there can be a long-term mechanism to resolve housing problems for the grassroots. Comments noted. Next, Ms. Judy Chan. First, congratulations to Chair. I agree with the other members who have spoken. I think that for this legislative session, we should carry on with the discussion on eradicating unsuitable housing. How can we make sure that SDU tenants can transition smoothly to adequate housing? I think the current term government as well as electoral members should be responsible for this. Also, I think we need ancillary facilities. For example, in the council meeting this week, we talked about the housing problems faced by elderly people. We talked about how elderly people can age with integrity and dignity. So apart from looking at the housing issues, we should also look at what problems they face in their daily lives. For example, can they get groceries nearby? So apart from looking at the hardware facilities, we should also look at the other supporting facilities and ancillary facilities for elderly people. Also, I'm concerned about the needs of young families and young couples. We are facing a low birth rate. In terms of our housing policies, how can we encourage more young people to give birth? Can we have more such pro-birth facilities or measures? Now turning to the ratio of public housing flats and HOS flats, I understand this is part of the agenda of the current term government, but I hope that we can speed up with implementing the 4-6 split. Next, Ms. Julia Lau. Congratulations, Chair. On the typo fire incident, I think we need to review the relevant legislations, including those that have to do with the housing department, the FSD, and so on. I think we have to look at how we can review and improve the existing legislations. We also have to review the existing housing types. As mentioned by other members, different classes of people face different needs. Can the existing housing types address the market's need? We have to look into this. Thank you. Next, Ms. Christine Fong. She's not a panel member. Yes, Chair, congratulations. First of all, I agree with all the members who have spoken. I myself am concerned about purchased public housing flats maintenance problems. There are public housing estates that are about 30 years old. I hope that we can talk about the maintenance issues of these old flats. We can also cover building maintenance as well as management. For newly completed public housing estates, can the relevant facilities or the management fees be adjusted? These are all areas of concern for me. All right, thank you. I see that all members who asked to speak have already spoken. I, together with the Deputy Chair, will meet with the administration for the 2026 session. And at the meeting, we will consider all the proposed topics raised by members just now. At the House Committee meeting last week, the House Committee Chair briefed members on the basic principles for establishing subcommittees on policy matters. The House Committee will consider holistically the priority of work of all the subcommittees after they've received the proposals for setting up the subcommittees. This panel will hold a regular meeting in early February. If members think it is necessary to set up a subcommittee on policy issues under this panel to study specific matters of widespread public concern, please submit written proposals to the clerk by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, January the 28th. The proposals should include information such as the subcommittee's terms of reference, work schedule, and work plan. You may want to consider the following principles if you are considering proposing the establishment of a subcommittee. For example, if you would like to follow up on a specific policy matter, apart from setting up a subcommittee under this panel, we can also make arrangements to discuss the relevant items in our regular meetings. We could also consider the possibility of holding special meetings for that. In terms of the terms of reference for the proposed subcommittees, well, the work of the relevant subcommittee should be completed in 12 months' time. Also, we should only at most have 10 subcommittees running at the same time, so please take note of this. Now, I'd like to remind members that the maximum number of members of a subcommittee on policy matters should not exceed 20, of which more than half must be members of this panel. And if non-panel members would like to join, their number shall not exceed that of panel members. Now, next agenda item. Any other business? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.